morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming and joining us for this training. My name is Chris Lithgow, and I'm the manager of Bluelight Services and Productions Company. Today we're going to be talking about general crew training and what that means in terms of getting you all prepared for TV productions as well as film productions. Some of what you learned today can even be used in special projects for anybody that's interested down the road in working on corporate productions for clients and business and such. So there will be a lot of good information that we're going to share with you today, and we're going to make this as interactive as possible. So we'll be asking you some questions, hopefully getting you to think about some of what we mentioned to you, and also, just sharing with you a lot of our own personal experiences while on set. I've been working in the industry for almost 9 years. I've been a professional voice talent and actor, worked on a number of television shows and movie productions. Also been on the big screen for a number of independent films, and I've done some commercial work as well. So we're going to share with you a lot of our experiences and what we've learned for both our own projects. I've also made a feature film and a couple of short films, and the feature film is currently in post-production right now. Of the 2 feature films that my company has done, one has been accepted. The first one that we did was accepted into the Richmond International Films Festival and actually screened early in 2015. So that was an amazing blessing for us, and it was well received. And we also have several more projects in the works, both short films as well as feature films that are in pre-production. So we're going to share with you a lot of our own experiences here shortly. I have also Mr. Frank Fazio with me here today, and he is a professional that's been in the industry for quite some time as well. Yes, come on up here, Frank. Frank now is a very skilled man who's actually worked behind the camera, oftentimes as much as he has in front of the camera. He does his own work. He does work for other clients as an editor, as a director of photography, and in projects such as that. So I'm blessed to have Frank with me here today as we talk about crew training and getting you guys ready, because there's some exciting things in store for later this year as well as in 2016 coming up. So you guys will be ready to roll, and you'll understand the terminology, and maybe you'll have a better understanding of things that you have a passion for in terms of what you might want to do on a production, in front or behind the camera, maybe both, like Frank does.
Yes.
So let me share with you our main purpose, our mission statement for you, because we're going to be having and holding many other training sessions too, possibly in other local locations, but we're going to have training on a number of different subjects. So our goal for all of our students will always be 3 things to mainly focus on. One is that you guys learn something, maybe learn quite a bit. Second thing is that you guys grow to become leaders in the industry, if you're not already leaders. And if you're already leaders, that you learn some techniques to become better leaders, and also to just be more active and to be able to lead in your community. And then the third thing is to essentially, we encourage this by the way, and that is to share. Share anything you've learned with family, friends, acquaintances, what have you, because we'd like to build up the Virginia film and TV industry as much as we possibly can. It's all about getting more attention for our state, and to have some tangible evidence that we can show our Virginia State delegates at the end of the year in terms of the advancement of the industry. So those are other things. So onward to today's class.
Yeah, and I think what would be great is just to, it is a very intimate setting, which we like, because I think it does give the feel that, you can be comfortable to ask, because there are really no stupid questions when you're learning. I mean, there isn't. I mean, because you just, if you don't know, you don't know, and it's better to say, boy, I wish I would have asked that question. Yeah. But I would say, let's start out by each one of you introducing yourselves and maybe telling us what you hope to get out of this class. You can start right here.
And your own background,
yeah,
too.
A little bit about yourselves.
And if you have any background in either film, television, what
crew,
that kind of stuff.
My name is James Drake. I do camera work, photography, still photography and video. Just finished my first short film a couple months ago. Just looking to get more experience on set and get out there and make more projects.
Well, this was a good step then, right here.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi everyone, I'm Paris. I'm a year in recent college grad at Old Dominion University. I was a comm major, and then my discipline was under film and video studies. So I'm definitely interested in the industry. And as far as prior experience in high school, with the specialty centers that Henrico County have, I was part of Verona High School Specialty Center for Communications. So I do have a film and TV background, but I'm definitely interested in the industry as well.
Great, good to have you here.
Yes.
I'm Amy. I got into theatrical lighting design by watching behind the scenes of Peter Jackson's movies, and then I thought I would get back into film, and sort of that's how I got into theater. So yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Great,
Glad you're
great.
here.
Well, that's
so,
good.
Okay, we're going to start with some terminology. And if any of you students here happen to know the answer, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll share with folks as we progress. So the first piece of terminology that you're going to need to know, if you don't know already, is holding. When you're on a TV or you're on a film production, you're going to hear the term holding, the holding room. Now, does anybody here have experience with a holding room, or know what is meant by the holding room, and what is it used for?
Think of the word holding. What that might be.
I would guess kind of like a waiting room in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like to keep people quiet, things of that sort.
Right.
So essentially, Frank is exactly right. It's as is Paris. It's an area where that's somewhat removed away from where the filming is taking place, and they do that. And this happens for a number of reasons, but first and foremost, it happens because where the filming takes place has to be very quiet. The crew members need to be able to communicate with each other. And so cast is usually held off into this holding area so that they can either prepare their lines, review in a quiet atmosphere, take care of any personal business before they come to the actual set and the filming location. And the set is the term that we use for the actual filming location, in case anybody didn't know that. So you'll hear the term the set too, or the shoot location. Those are two reference points in terms that are used for that. And it's also a place where, and this is going to overlap with proper protocol on set, which is another topic we're going to be talking about. Because when you're in holding, the other thing is that for any cell phone use that you might have, you're expected to keep that in the holding area. So please don't bring your cell phones out to set. Nobody wants to have any ringing going on, or conversations, or texting, or any of that kind of stuff, because it kind of detracts from the concentration and the professionalism. So as you progress, it's just make sure that you take care of those type of things when you're in the holding area. Okay, some of the other terms, and if there's any questions, please feel free to raise your hand as we progress here. Another common term that you're going to hear, particularly from the crew side, and this is like a huge term to try to remember, and it's usually a term that's not like fully pronounced. There's usually like a abbreviation for it, and that's the other thing to be aware of. When you're on set, you're going to hear a lot of abbreviations for stuff, like 1 or 2 letter abbreviations, and you might be like, wow, well, what does that mean? What are they talking about? So we're gonna help you guys know what that all means now. And so the next term is DP. Does anybody know what a DP is? Okay. Anyone here?
Director of photography.
Director of photography. Awesome.
Right.
I'm glad you folks all knew that. Very critical role, and it's a term that you're going to hear all the time. Probably every few minutes. And what is the role of the DP? Any folks here know?
They create the lighting environment and the camera shots, and just mold the look of the picture. Yes,
yes indeed. Thank you, James. You're absolutely right. The director of photography, prior to a film shoot, will generally, the proper protocol for the DP is that they write up a shot list. Remember how I mentioned that there's a purpose for every shot? And that's the director of photography's job, to write up a shot list in the context of each and every scene that's being shot on a particular production day and in the overall, length of the project. And so any questions so far? Okay, more terminology to be aware of is the EP. Anybody know what the EP might be in context of a film or TV set? Okay, the EP is the executive producer. Anybody know what the main fundamental task is of an executive producer?
Funding, finances.
What is it?
Funding, finances.
Absolutely. Paris, you're spot on, very sharp.
Right.
You're absolutely right. The executive producer, and see, the reason why this term is really important to understand is there's a lot of misunderstanding with some folks in terms of what the true duty or responsibility of the executive producer is. Because you've got sometimes various levels of producers, right? But the executive producer is primarily responsible for the funding of a project, the actual costs and financing of a particular project. So anytime you hear executive producer and you look at that name, you're like, wow, that's the person who had the bucks for this particular project.
Right.
Excellent.
And what you're all going to learn, and it won't take long, is that without funding, you still can do a project, but it's a lot.
Everybody understand that? Any questions there? There? Okay. Next one we're going to move on to is the PM. Any idea what the PM is? What?
Production manager.
Awesome. Spot on. Amy nails it. Okay, production or project manager. Sometimes those terms are used interchangeably, but yes, indeed, you're absolutely right. And what is their primary task or tasks, do you think?
Keep everybody on track.
Yes, very good, very sharp indeed. Absolutely spot on. It's to keep everybody on track, to keep things moving forward, and as a production manager, it's their responsibility to, almost like I was saying with you folks too, is to anticipate. I mean, a really good production manager anticipates challenges. No matter how well, here's one of the things about personal experience, no matter how well or how much you plan for a project in advance, be it a TV project or a film project or special event or what have you, it goes without saying, folks, this is just the reality of life. You will always be faced with some level of challenges. Sometimes stuff that you can't control, you can't anticipate, such as, example might be somebody not being able to make it to set on time.
Mm-hmm.
So that can throw your schedule off, right?
Right.
And challenges like that, it's kind of the duty of the project manager or the production manager to find a way to overcome. Other terms to be aware of are grips and gaffers. Anybody know what the grips and gaffers do? Okay, any of you?
Is that like to control camera movement or help guide whoever the cinematographer, videographer?
That's certainly part of it, absolutely.
Yep.
Electric and light.
Right.
Like,
Anybody know what B-roll is?
Just the extra footage to accompany.
Very good, very good. And B-roll really does add so much to any film, because it's those close-ups. Money in your hands, a gun on the table, a view of the city, all these little nuances that we have done in our films.
Oftentimes referred to as motion on set. Usually what it does is it involves action without sound.
Right.
So you have some kind of movement, some kind of action that can really, because a lot of times, once again, and I refer to poetry sometimes because I've been a poet for a number of years, it conveys quite a bit, in terms of your visual message that a viewer sees without even having to say anything. So sometimes the best and most powerful moments in a film, and I'm sure you can think of many in some of the films you've seen, don't involve any actual dialogue, but something that a particular character does.
Yes.
And that's your MOS.
Right. Could be in the eyes, it could be in the expression, it could be in the movement.
So then we've got the AD and the CM. Anybody know what the AD and the CM are?
Assistant director.
Yes, assistant director. Spot on. Excellent. And do you guys know what the assistant director generally does?
Whatever the director says.
And sometimes there can be multiple assistant directors. But let me okay. So let me just dive right in here in the best interest of time. Okay, so it is the assistant director. That's what the AD is. Assistant directors oftentimes focus on the blocking. Sometimes they'll focus on either helping to lead the cast and crew along with the project manager. Sometimes they'll focus on some aesthetics on a particular set. So those in a nutshell are a lot of what the assistant director does. Now, my style might be a little bit different from some folks, and I'm going to explain this here for a second. Because to me, it sounds very confusing when you have, and this typically only happens with larger sets as opposed to smaller independent productions, but on some of the larger like Hollywood, scale sets and stuff, what you'll oftentimes have, or you'll see, particularly in the credits, is you'll see like AD1, AD2, AD3, and it's like, oh my God,
Right.
how many ADs are there, and what are they all doing?
Yeah.
And it gets really confusing, right? So what we've done, for example, on our sets, and maybe it's easier for us to be able to do it than some of the other folks because our productions aren't nearly as large yet, knock on wood, right? So to clear things up and to prevent things from being, rather sort of confusing, instead of using the term AD or assistant director, what we've done, particularly on our featured film called Master Plan that we did, which is currently in post, as I mentioned, is that we've had essentially 2 project managers or production managers that basically do largely what the ADs do. And the reason why we're able to do it this way and why it makes more sense is because with the 2 production managers, we've had one production manager with the same sort of tasks as the AD, mind you, head up our crew, and the other one heads up our cast, okay? And so that way, instead of saying 81, 82, 83, 80, 84, and so on and so forth, we just have project manager, cast, project manager, crew.
Right.
No confusion there. It's crystal clear, right? So that's one of the things that we've done to try to keep some of that stuff cleared up. Some other terms you're going to hear frequently is the CM. Anybody know what the CM is?
Casting manager.
Yes, it can be the casting manager. It can also be the continuity manager. Because a lot of times the casting manager will also be the project manager or a cast member, for example. And so if you're supposed to convey in the context of a story, maybe a 3 or 4 day timeline that passes within the length of a feature film, for example, you've got to be, that's the person who's in charge of saying, this is your outfit because this is considered day 2 in the script.
That's right.
And so on and so forth. That is critical because you can't have a few minutes of a movie go by without knowing that the day's changed and suddenly an actor or an actress is wearing something completely different because then you're like, what?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Who is this? And it starts confusing the viewers. We're also going to talk about the terms that you're going to hear as things are literally being filmed. So you're going to hear terms such as quiet on set, which oftentimes either a PA or a project manager will say. Maybe even the director will say that on set. That's the first thing you'll typically hear before a camera take starts filming. You're going to hear quiet on set. This is the order before things really start filming. You're going to hear the term quiet on set. You're going to hear oftentimes sound speed, which means that the person who's recording the audio, your audio engineer, who's operating the boom and the other piece of equipment, they're going to say sound speeding when they're ready. So that's something that you'll be familiar with. And then last but not least, you'll also hear camera speed, which means the camera's already rolling, so the take can be done before the filming happens, and then you'll just simply hear. You might hear, my style oftentimes is I'll say set, meaning take that breath, get ready for your emotion, get ready for the scene to start taking place, and then I'll say action. So it gives people plenty of time to know exactly the progression of things. So those are terms you're going to hear on set all the time, particularly on my productions, but they're going to be virtually identical with the other productions as well. You'll also hear the term cut, which simply means, you know, a take is done. Either that's because the director and such have gotten what they wanted, or because it was something that needed to be redone. So you'll hear the term cut on set. You'll also hear the term slate. Anybody know what a slate is and what it's used for? A clapper, yes. Anybody know? Okay, well, the clapper or the slate is simply used to identify, particularly this is critical for post-production, to identify a scene, the number of the scene, and the name of the project. Oftentimes it'll have the director's name on it and stuff. So basically, typically it's a red and white stick, and you'll see it clapped together. That's what a slate is, and those are the type of things that it's used for. Because once a project goes to post-production, if folks have done things by proper protocol, they're going to have 3 or 4 takes to look at for each and every scene. And they're going to want to pull out the best pieces of whatever scene they use. So it's critical that a slate is used so you know exactly, okay, like number 2 was the best take, or number 3 was the best take, or what have you. And so those are reasons why the slate is used oftentimes on set. Okay. We talked about maintaining the continuity. How about the CO? Does anybody know what the CO is on set? Yes! Excellent. Paris nailed it again. Yeah, the camera operator. That's just a common term you'll hear on set. Another term you'll hear oftentimes, if more than one camera is being used on a project, which incidentally, folks, particularly for film projects, I think it's very much cost effective and better if you can actually use 2 cameras on a project as opposed to only 1. Goes without saying. Now you do have to keep in mind when that happens, or a crew has to keep in mind, that the camera speeds and the lenses and all that are compatible with one another, because when it goes into post-production, they have to be able to match, right? What the viewers are seeing on screen. But it's really good to run with 2 cameras whenever you can as opposed to 1. So that's another tip for you to be aware of. Okay, the SM. How about the SM? Anybody know what the SM is? The SM is the script manager. And that's imperative, because some folks, as I mentioned, are going to have a style such as mine, and they'll be like, hey, having another piece of humble pie here. So yes, there are certain lines in the context of my projects that have to be said, because it's really for the good of the integrity and the development of a story or a project or a name. However, I create a lot of leeway for my talent on set. So hence the reason why I really appreciate improv actors, because that means that they might say something in character that's a lot better and more sort of spontaneous and believable to a viewer than what I actually wrote in my script. And so how that relates to the script manager is the script manager may say, oh man, that wasn't the line, right? When they use it. And then at that point I can decide, oh, well, yeah, they really need to say that. So I'm glad they mentioned something to me. Or I might say, man, that was so much better than I wrote. Let's keep that. That was golden. It was even better. So it all depends on the style of the director. That's something to be aware of. Okay, the MA, or the makeup artist, is another term that you'll hear oftentimes on set. The VE, or the visual effects person. A lot of times you'll have those on set. Okay, what is referred to as an S-cam? Or what does it mean if somebody says, hey, we're going to need an S-cam?
Second.
Yes. Yes. S-cam, it would be a Steadicam. Excellent. Good job, James. Let's see. Everybody know what a slider or roller is?
No.
Okay, the slider or roller is another piece of equipment that's used to get generally a sideways shot. Can create some kind of dramatic effect. We're going to cover that more in our next class. More technical equipment, but really important to get some awesome types of shots sometimes. All right. Proper protocol. We're gonna kind of go through this fairly quickly. Some of it we already have, but it's good to emphasize just so you guys know. So keep all your cell phones turned off while on set and leave them in holding. No talking while on set, especially when quiet is called on set. Quiet on set, that kind of thing. Okay, also, a company will generally provide breaks, like a full meal, within 5 hours. Typically, you can expect not to have to work, more than 5 hours without a more substantial break than a snack. So that's kind of something you can keep it in the back of your mind. Okay, in terms of safety, this is one of the things that my production company does, and one of the things that you guys should be aware of and ask if it's not addressed for any type of project you do. Very, very, very important here, because safety is of #1 importance for any type of film project. Ask about, if you're not told about this, ask to ensure that there's a first aid kit on set, because you never know, God forbid, if one will ever be needed. So you're going to want to make sure that the company you're working for has some kind of plan
And who has it?
for safety, and who has it exactly. All right, something else that we're going to cover real quick is release forms. Okay, so you can be aware of things that you guys might be responsible for, in terms of collecting or handing out, or things that if you're a talent, you might have to, sign or whatever. And that is different release forms. There's a lot of these different types of forms that you're going to see as you progress. One is a form that basically says that talent is allowing their faces to be shown on any type of media source in the context of the project you're working on. That's a standard release form. Okay. Another type of release form that you'll run into typically on any of these sets, on any of these projects, is you'll run into the type of form that comes from the location management or the location owner. And basically what that says in so many words is that the location is granting you permission to have filming done on their property. So that's pretty common too, that you'll find. A third form, which is fairly common, is for any type of project. You have projects and productions usually have the option of having production insurance, to cover any type of injury, God forbid, that might happen, or sometimes they're offered a form for folks to sign saying that, hey, we're letting you know we don't have production insurance on this project. We'd just like to know if you'd be willing to sign saying that you're not going to hold the company liable. Just be careful, be safety conscious, but there is no production insurance on this. Everybody understand that? Any questions there? Okay. Next one we're going to move on to is the PM. Any idea what the PM is? What?
Production manager.
Awesome. Spot on. Amy nails it. Okay, production and production or project manager. Sometimes those terms are used interchangeably, but yes, indeed, you're absolutely right. And what is their primary task or tasks, do you think?
Keep everybody on track.
Yes, very good, very sharp indeed. Absolutely spot on. It's to keep everybody on track, to keep things moving forward, and as a production manager, it's their responsibility to, almost like I was saying with you folks too, is to anticipate. I mean, a really good production manager anticipates challenges. No matter how well, here's one of the things about personal experience, no matter how well or how much you plan for a project in advance, be it a TV project or a film project or special event or what have you, it goes without saying, folks, this is just the reality of life. You will always be faced with some level of challenges. Sometimes stuff that you can't control, you can't anticipate, such as, example might be somebody not being able to make it to set on time. Mm-hmm. So that can throw your schedule off, right?
Right.
And challenges like that, it's kind of the duty of the project manager or the production manager mm-hmm. to find a way to overcome.
We try to do as production managers was if you have any concerns or issues, first bring them to us.
Yes.
I mean, if you say you want to talk directly to Chris, the director, by all means, but first bring it to us, because that way it could be something that we can easily resolve and we can continue working, and you know, very little downtime, very little disruption. And the other thing I always mention as a production manager is, and like Chris was saying, when you have ideas, and I've said this too, there's a place and a time to bring it up.
Yes.
What you don't want to do is, whether you think the scene could be better, you think somebody's bugging you, you think somebody's not. What you don't do is and the terminology is, you don't air your dirty laundry in front of the cast and crew. It's not professional.
For proper protocol, you know, it's pretty standard, and some may go outside this framework, but we realize that your time and effort as crew members, as cast members, is precious, and we realize that on most shoots, you know, whatever project it is may require several days in a row, okay? Could require a week or more even, right? And so we don't want to burn you guys out. This is the way we do business. We want to be conscious of your needs, and we want to be conscious of the fact that we're all human.
Absolutely.
And so what I encourage and what I expect, proper protocol, and you'll typically find this, is that you really shouldn't have days that exceed, in a 24-hour period, about 10 hours. Make sure you're hydrated, whatever it is.
And it'll go a lot further if you're not afraid to admit you made a mistake. Because people aren't, you know, they have eyes. They're there for the same reason you are, to make a good film. And if you try to just pass that off like, oh, I didn't do that, instead of saying, you know, I'm learning, you know, that was my mistake, I'm sorry. It will go so much further, because you will get people who will have more admiration and respect for you, because right off the bat they're knowing that you aren't afraid to admit you're like everybody else. You make mistakes, and you learn from them.
Can I share? That just happened to me last week. It was terrible. We were on the set for a project Frank and I were working on together, and it was a prop. The director asked me to grab a prop, and we're literally coming through what is the jungle, and it's this frail skeleton. And I'm walking, and lo and behold, I get through the thickest part of it, and he hits a small branch on the pine and snap. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not coming back. I just and the director was super cool about it. I said, we're gonna need some epoxy. Not like, oh my gosh, we can't use this now. I'm like, we need epoxy. Like, we need to fix this. He's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. But I felt bad. You know what I mean? Because it's like he gave that to me, even though he made it, it took his time to do that, and like that was part of my responsibility. No. So I wasn't like, I don't know what happened. I just, or making excuses. It's not the place for excuses. It's like, how do we solve it? And I'm on it. I'll even go to the store and get the epoxy if I have to. We have another one, but so.
Yeah, that's good.
And it was with me for 3 days, though. I mean, I felt that bad about it, and he was like, Steve's like, it's fine.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's right. That's right. And the more, see, so this is something that you guys, you know, is a nice takeaway for you, is the more a project manager or the more a director or a producer calls upon you to do something as a crew member, that's just an indication that they trust you.
Yeah, you're doing something right.
And because of that, instead of going to somebody else, they're like, man, I know that, you know, that Amy, she's sharp, man, she's on everything. You know, that's somebody I can rely on. They're here all the time. They're here early or on time. They know what they're doing, and they're passionate about what they're doing. So it shows that they really care what they're doing.
Yeah, because
same with you, James.
Right, because there's a difference. You can have somebody who says, "Well, I've done it all," but if you've never done it all with them, and you have worked with James, well, he's not an unknown. He's a known. So by knowing that I've seen you do your work, I know what you do. I've worked with Paris. She's always on time. She's never late. Anytime I've asked her something, same with Ann, you know, all of that. That's to me more precious than saying somebody going, hey, you want to see how many sets that I've been on and how many shoots I've been on? I mean, I think at one time Tom Hanks might have waved to me, you know? Well, all I know is I've worked with these people, and they're not unknowns, and you know what? they might not have that paper in front of them, but I can rely on them.
That's right.
I can know that they will give me the deliverables I want.
Yeah, that's right.
And that goes a long way.
Well, sorry to say that we're running low on time, and as you guys could probably already tell, Frank and I, we're talkers. We're passionate about what we do. We want to share as much as we can with you. We'd like you guys to learn and ask questions as much as possible. But we only have a few minutes left. So in these last few minutes, we'd like to open it up for any questions or comments from our students, from you folks. And also, we would love it if you guys were to just take a couple of minutes and answer a couple questions for us on a survey to get your thoughts about what you experienced today in our class. And just as a reminder, we've got 2 more classes on different subjects coming up on Sunday, September 20th. It's at a different location in Mechanicsville.
And what Chris has handed you is, it's really something that is helpful to trainers,
Yes.
especially when they're wanting to know what can they tweak, what can they improve on,
Yes.
or what, and so that is helpful. And it's best that way when you write it down, because that way you feel more comfortable about sharing honestly what you felt about, maybe what I would have liked to see, maybe, or didn't see or didn't hear. So think about that. It's important for us. It's important for Chris, because we want to continue these classes, and we want people to come back and go, we want you all to say, I felt like that class was really good for me. It's going to help me.
And if there's anything in particular, like something specific, like you want a whole class that teaches about, lighting,
Workshop.
let us
A
know.
workshop.
A workshop.
Exactly.
You want to learn more specifics about a particular type of camera or a particular type of crew equipment. Maybe you guys want to develop your skills in leadership, because that's one of the things we're going to offer next month. Is we're going to offer a class. It's one thing to learn stuff in the classroom, but ultimately it comes down to your experience. And the only way you get the experience is getting yourself out there and engaging and actually becoming active, physically getting involved.
And go out there this week and go, hey, up to somebody who, kind of thinks they're playing around with this stuff. So, have you done any MOS stuff lately? Or,
Term dropping.
do a little term drop in there, Well, where have you been?
You should come.
There's a
to it.
class.
Yeah, you should.
That's right.
We're going to continue. Chris is going to continue doing these ongoing, and again, like we're saying, you help us improve.
Yes.
Because your feedback is helpful, because it's like any training class. I taught computer classes for years and years, and I know reading the feedback really helped me help myself and help improve my classes. So
Sure.
well, any more questions?
All right. Thanks, folks. Thank you very much.
Give a round of applause for our folks.
We hope to see you again soon.